Welcome to the Dr. Stacy Show, where we are talking about all things faith, love, and wellness as it relates to raising our kids. I'm your host, Dr. Stacy, and today I'm super excited to have with us on the show Reasha Tenaye. She's an author of the book Waiting on My Rainbow, a shift strategist, and the founder of Experience the Exhale, a faith-centered platform supporting women navigating the marital shift, the internal, the emotional, and the spiritual transformation that occurs when marital status changes. Through reflective tools, guided experiences, and community, Reasha creates space for women to pause, gain clarity, and move forward with wisdom rather than urgency. Experience the Exhale exists to remind women that stillness is not stagnation, but is sacred preparation. Reasha, thanks so much for being on the show today.
Thank you so much for having me. I'm excited to be here.
Well, Risha, we're just going to dive right on in because some episodes like I look forward to, and today I was just like, oh, this is my therapy today. Okay, so loving the idea of talking about the marital shift. Tell our listeners your why. Tell us a little bit about your story, what happened.
Okay, so I'm just a girl.
Mm,
I grew up and I always had some challenges with feeling like I belonged. And I
mm,
kind of went through my journey and I got to where I am. I've been married. I also am divorced. I am a mom and I wear a lot of hats. And sometimes when you wear a lot of hats, you kind of forget the person who has to put the hat on.
mm.
So my journey has brought me to here, and I just decided to share my journey with other women because I realized I wasn't alone and we all need that support.
Yes, and I'm gonna just say because I don't know how many of my listeners know I'm in that space too, right? I'm a mom, I'm divorced, 19 years of marriage, then divorced, and we were talking before show. It's how interesting that we prepare for the ceremony, but not necessarily the marriage. Talk to me a little bit about this shift that happened for you and how did it come about?
So when I got married, or before I even get married, that was my goal.
Hmm.
I wanted to get married, but I didn't know if that was in my destiny. But once I saw, that door open,
Mhm.
I was prepared. Everyone talks about how to be a wife and what to do as a wife, what you need for your wedding. You get the dress, you get the cake, you get the venue, you get all the things. Oh yeah, the husband shows up too. And most people kind of look at that like, okay, the game's over.
Yeah.
But how are we as a wife? Yes, we're
Mm,
tending to our husband, but how do we sustain that? What do we do when we go, like for me, when I went from being Risha to being a wife, shortly
mm,
thereafter to being a mom,
mhm.
and then trying to adjust to that, then being a mom again. And you're trying to juggle all that and you're trying to make sure everyone is happy. But I realized that Risha was missing.
Mm.
Mom, mommy was doing what she needed to do. Wife was doing what she needed to do. Friend was doing what she needed to do. Employee was doing what she needed to do. But on the few moments I even got by myself, I didn't know which way was up.
Mm.
And a lot of women deal with that. We just add these titles and have this resume. But where are our extracurriculars? Or what do we do in our downtime? And we don't know what to do. I know for me, the first time I was without my kids, I cried the whole weekend because I was like, well, what am I supposed to do? I'm not momming right now.
Wow.
And not a good place to be in. We've got
Mhm.
to treat ourselves better and we have to do better with taking care of ourselves. And that's kind of definitely where Waiting on My Rainbow came from, but absolutely how Experience the Exhale came to be.
You just hit on something because we always talk about like the custody piece or from a male perspective and weekends, but what about the weekend that mom doesn't have the kids, right? How hard is that as because you just nailed it. Your whole identity we put into being that role often. And then to say, wait a minute, I have a weekend, 2 weekends out of the month or weekends where or nights where I don't have my children. That is such a again the shift, and I love how you said shift strategist, right? This idea of a mindset and a shift and a shift. Tell us a little bit because we were talking pre-show, and your book is titled "Waiting on My Rainbow." Talk to us a little bit about that title.
So a lot that I do is relates on my spirituality in the Bible.
Mm,
So when we first saw a rainbow in the Bible, it was in Genesis after God had flooded the earth. There was that huge flood. For me, my marriage ending was a tsunami because I didn't have a plan B. My
Yeah.
plan was to be married until either one of us died, and then that was going to be it. Because that's how we're taught, right? What
Mhm.
do you do when that storm comes and everything is covered in disaster? I had to bring it back to the word.
Yeah.
And God sent that flood
Mm.
and said, "This is my promise to you. I will not do that again." And here comes the rainbow. So think
Mm.
about it. You're in a dark season in your life. And this is not just for women who are divorced. This is for women who may be going through a valley in their marriage, but they want it to work. But you're in the midst of that storm, dark clouds, thunder, lightning. You got to remember, God said there's a rainbow that's coming. So after you've gone through all of that, you're looking at the rubble, but you look up and see this beautiful, vibrant rainbow. Everything's going to be okay. Because to be honest,
Yeah.
if we take it just from the word in Genesis, when has the world been flooded again? When have we seen that
Mhm.
destruction? So what does that mean? That God kept his promise in that. So
Right.
why would we not think he would keep his promise with anything else? So if there are women who want to get married again after divorce, guess what? Your rainbow is coming. If your marriage is in a valley and you want it to get better, guess what? That rainbow is coming. We just have to know that the better is there. We're not going to be in that darkness and that storm forever.
Yes, so we're not going to be single forever. Listen, the rainbow is coming.
Yes, if it's our desire, because it's mine, it's my
It's my
desire to be married again. Yeah, God will give us the desire of our heart. So we have to,
yeah,
and
that's right.
sometimes it involves us taking
Mhm.
us out of the way and letting him do his thing.
Yes,
Because
and
we can jack some stuff up.
yeah, and that's that part, right? Like even understanding that this season is about preparation as well. That this
Mhm.
season, and I love how you take women through reflective tools and guidance, even through your book, right? To say this moment again, it's all part of God's story for your life, and if we trust and believe that, then we know that this season also has purpose, and so being
Exactly.
sit in that and walk in this purpose is something that we do have to take time to do. Absolutely. And so when you think about earlier, the idea of we prepare for wedding, right? So all of us know Proverbs 31. But then I
Mhm.
think about how do we prepare women for divorce? Because we don't. And I know I grew up in a church system where, right, you got married, you stayed married forever was the mindset in the church. Although we
Mhm.
know statistically, even within the churches, our divorce rate is just as high, if not higher, in church settings as it is in, other settings.
Yeah. And I think that I know for me, I definitely had a period where I didn't know what to do with that. And I was like, my
Mhm.
faith is strong. I love my church,
Yeah.
but this is happening. Maybe, there's a scarlet letter on my forehead. So
Mm,
if I couldn't make a marriage work, am I even supposed to be in church? Was I doing
mm.
God right?
Yeah. Uh,
Because why else would I be here? And so it's very normal for people, be they men or women, to internalize that,
yeah.
especially women, because of how we're taught to be wives.
Mhm.
And for me, it was important to look at every side of that for me. And in just sharing my journey and doing my work, I came across other women who would see me knowing what I was going through, like, wow, you just look so happy. How didn't this happen? Yeah, it
Yeah.
was pretty bad. Well,
Mm,
how are you still standing? And just knowing that there's community.
mm.
No, we're not sitting here just crying all the time, but tears are healthy. We got
Yeah.
to let that
Ooh,
out.
listen.
Um, and by no means are we telling women, hey, yeah, totally divorce your spouse. No, our goal is to help women be the best versions of themselves. Because again, I can't be a good anything if I'm not a good Reasha. I
Yeah.
can't be a good mom. I can't be a good friend. I can't be a good anything. So once we realize that it's okay to be in love with us, everything else kind of flows through that. And then whichever part of the shift that you're on, you're able to operate in excellence because you're taking
Mhm.
care of you.
Yeah, and that sense of community, I didn't realize how lonely the divorce world is, and the isolation. Talk a little bit about the community that you've created through your resources and how that has helped women.
Yeah, so for me, I had the fortunate or unfortunate, depending on how you look at it. I went through my separation and divorce during COVID.
Mm,
So I didn't necessarily have to be in front of people. So I didn't have to put on the makeup and put on the smiling face and yeah, everything is great while I was crumbling. I crumbled at home, but I still had to manage that because isolation was hard for me because I wanted to go to a friend's house. I wanted to be in front of trusted people. I wanted to go axe throwing or something that could get the frustration out. And at first I felt bad about that. I immediately was like, okay, this is going on, but I have children. And
Mm-hmm.
I cannot let my children see mommy cry because they were very young. And I was like, I don't want them to ever think that this was their fault. So how am I going to do this? And then I just talked to some of my married friends and they, try to relate as best as they can, but they're not divorced, so they can only do so much. So I just started writing about it and I just started sharing as much as I could without giving the anger off, but
Mm-hmm.
trying to get some of that out. So when I speak to women or as the women have come and we've worked with each other and we've kind of navigated through it, I tell women therapy is great.
Yeah.
Don't ever let anybody tell you that therapy is wrong.
Mm-hmm.
What resources, what outlets can we use? Can you journal?
Mm-hmm.
Maybe spend some alone time is not always a bad thing, but just giving options. Because sometimes when we're in that space, we feel like we just have to sit there and take it. That whatever is going to happen, it's happening. We deserve it because we obviously did something wrong. And this is just our just due, and we just have to deal with it. And that's not the case. But just letting women know it's okay. If you want to sit and cry,
Yeah.
do that. If you want me to be next to you while you're crying, I will be that support for you. So just knowing what do you need? And it's okay to ask for help. It's totally okay to not be okay. But just letting other women know that you're not the first person to go through a divorce. Plot twist, you also won't be the last.
Yeah.
But what can we do to make this transition better and not as hard and help you so that we can learn together what to do better for next time, if next time is what you want.
Mm-hmm. Well, and you just nailed it too, like the internalization that we do as women, right? That
Mhm.
negative, even the idea, the thought process. I'm a therapist. I always see people. I'm a therapist that sees a therapist, and I got back into therapy when I went through my divorce because there were so many moments that the negative thoughts and the internalizing what happened started creeping in even for me. And so to have a community, to have even my therapist to be able to objectively look at what happened, right? Tell me where I needed to change or even to say, no, you were doing the right thing here. But having that community is so huge so that we don't feel alone and that we are able to heal. And I love how you do that with connecting women and specifically connecting people to resources that I love how you said going from wisdom rather than urgency, because a lot of times, because of that anger, the emotions, the things that we're going through, we want to be quick to make decisions. Talk to me a little bit about how you help us to slow down and
Mhm.
where do we need to, even with that emotional space, maybe take a pause to make sure that we are making good decisions through wisdom.
So it's very important for women to stop. And we
Mm,
hate stopping. We don't like to sit still. We have to always have our hands in something. Oh, I have to help the kids do something. No. What if you don't have any kids? Oh, well, my mom needs this or this person
mm,
needs that. Stop trying to find an excuse to not be by yourself because you have to take that time
yeah.
for you. Because if you don't, and I will say I did this, I was just trying to run myself crazy. And then just one day, the smallest thing just had me break down. And I was like, that's not healthy. And
Mm,
we have to manage it. We always try to, I guess I would use it as like a Stepford wife, where
mhm,
we always want to present. And especially if our marriage ended and we may see our former spouse appear to be moving on.
mm,
Oh, well, how did he do that quick? Well, I want to do that too.
yeah.
And I'm going to do that too. No, you're not ready. We don't know where that person is, but we have to focus on us. And we have to take that time. So it's really a matter of saying, "Hey, stop. How are you feeling today?" Because I'm a person, if you ask me how I'm feeling, depending on that, you're always going to get a real response. How are you
Yeah.
doing, Rich? I'm having a horrible morning, but thank you for asking. I know it's going to get better. You have to
There
like
it is. Listen.
You got to get it out, because I'm not, some people like, hey, how you doing? Hi. Or like, how you doing today?
Mhm,
Good. Or, just, you're not even,
mhm,
what are you eating for lunch? Blue? Just talking. You're not really processing. And we have to get out of that, because if we fail to acknowledge what we've been through,
mhm.
we can possibly repeat it.
Yeah.
And then that'll just make us go deeper into internalizing, well, I never should have tried anyway, because this
Mhm.
is obviously what I'm
Yeah.
doing. That's not the case. We just
Yeah.
have to take our time.
And that faith-centered piece that you add to that, right? I always tell people, because Satan will get us in our thoughts, right? Right there, that
Oh,
negative
yeah.
thought. And then, right, being able to sit still, be still. I was just teaching in Sunday school, right? Mary and Martha, right? Listen, we don't have to be busy doing. Sometimes the best thing, and God all He wants us to do, is to sit still, listen, right? Taking that time to be. So you went from having this book to the connection with women, giving these resources, but then you also turned this into a summit. Tell us a little bit about the summit and what is going to be happening in September as you come back to this summit.
Okay, so I'm so proud of the summit because it's grown. So the Experience the Exhale 2.0 Summit will be happening on September 12th here in Greensboro at the Crown at the Carolina Theater. And this is a full day event where the community comes together. We have speakers and presenters, and we, of course, have food, because what's a gathering without good food? Good food goes with good conversation. We can
Mhm.
heal and eat at the same time. During the summit, we're going to talk about the different phases of the marital shift. We're also going to talk about other things that come into it. We have some people who have, unfortunately, in the midst of their shift, have experienced grief on one level or another, be it the spouse or a former spouse, a parent, a child. How do
Mhm.
we manage that when we're already trying to manage these other feelings? For women who want to or have moved on to a new relationship, how am I sure that I've gotten everything out of my system so I don't have any issues or the same issues with this one? So the whole idea of the summit is discovery and acceptance. We're going to see where we are in the shift. We're going to accept that. We're going to do our breathing exercises and our breathe framework. We'll talk about that more at another time. But we are going to love on each other, love on ourselves, and we are going to get that exhale that day.
Yeah. And see, I'm all excited for this summit, because this is something, when I think about the last 2 years, right? I've been going through this divorce, and to even have something like this, to where I can come and sit and be in community with other people experiencing this, is such a huge, I mean, again, people who are married, they don't understand. Right? I
Mhm.
moved my whole life. I moved to North Carolina. Everything changed, and the isolation and the loneliness. But even to say, hey, there's resources, there's support, there's tools. I didn't know. And I'm a therapist. Look, I tease people all the time. I'm a therapist, and I help people through marital shifts and changes, and yet not realizing how important all of these tools are, even to have in your toolkit. So if you're in that space, definitely mark that calendar, put it on September 12th. I already put it on mine this morning. Listen, write it down, put it there. Because again, and Risha, I just am appreciative, because I'm a person that's going through this space, right? I teased my therapist the other day. I had something, my ex started seeing one of my patients. Nobody prepares you for something like that.
Yeah.
Right? I mean, they're no longer my patient, unfortunately. Now I have to, but even the idea, there are so many things, like you said, the empty house, right? What to do with yourself, creating hobbies and interests. I've learned how to go places by myself once again, and creating that feeling of I'm okay, even if I'm at the park or out to dinner by myself.
Mhm.
Talk to me. You said something earlier, and I wanted to come back to that urgency of dating
Mhm.
and not being ready. What have you seen as you work with other women in that space when we rush? What have you seen?
When we rush, we
Mhm.
crash into a cement wall,
Mm,
because we're rushing because we want to show the other person, look what you lost. I'm going to show you.
yes.
You and we're not centered on us. We're
Mhm.
centered on revenge. We're centered on negativity, not healing and being our best. And when we do that, and I say again from experience, and I try to keep every woman I talk to from dealing with this, because it's almost like the scab from the divorce is just ripped off and then you're hurting all over again because you tried to rush to heal as
Yeah.
opposed to rushing to try and find something else,
Mm-hmm.
because it's going to be bad, because you have to put you first. And when you're rushing, you're not. You have an idea. This is what I want. You're not consulting with God. You're not consulting with those around you. And we hate to admit sometimes that we have free will. And
Yeah.
free will get us in trouble every time. And then we want to blame God, or we want to blame God or the
Yeah.
enemy. And they're somewhere minding their business. They didn't have anything to do with it. We did
We
it.
chose
But
it, right?
we chose that, but we don't want accountability. We
Yes.
didn't have to do that. Don't rush to that. The only thing we should be rushing to do is to do nothing, or to relax and
Mm,
heal and allow the process to run its course.
mm.
Because otherwise it's not going to end well.
Listen, and I'm gonna tell myself right now because that's how transparent I am. I did that. I rushed. I was like, okay, facts. You out there, I'm gonna be out there. And I started getting on the
Yep.
apps, and then it was just like, no. And yeah, you do. I hit that wall a couple times, and then I said, okay, Lord, this is not how this works. I was like, okay, let me sit back and relax for a second. And it's interesting because all of us that are old enough to remember the movie Waiting to Exhale, right? And again, the idea of that revenge dress and that revenge moment and that I'm going to show you. And no, that's not how this works, right? When God has things lined up in that promise, it's going to be, good. It's not going to be a revenge moment. It's going to be all that He's promised. And I love how you include that. When you think about, even like for your children, I love how you said earlier, helping them through this process. Where do you see, and I guess just how you handled your divorce, how was that helpful for your children? What things did you do through your divorce that you felt was helpful for your children to get through it?
I think for my children, the best thing that I could do for them outside of loving them is getting them in therapy as well.
Mm.
Because my children were toddlers when the divorce happened. And, they weren't able to articulate how they felt, but they went from living in like a big house, running outside, seeing their dad every day, to a small apartment and not seeing him every day. And I think that sometimes when we are in the thick of it, we're so focused on getting things done, we don't understand how that can impact them. Or like, okay,
Mm.
well, why is my child we're thinking they're being extra fussy because we're trying to process our emotions, but they have emotions too, and they're bigger because they can't really talk about it. So for me, it was so important to get my kids into therapy. And at that age, they do play therapy, but they're able to have a safe space, because honestly, their safe space has been put into two different places.
Yes.
So I always have positive talk.
Mm.
Anytime there's a conversation about their father in the beginning, when there were no happy conversations that I want to have, I always made sure to never have those conversations in front of them,
Mhm.
because I didn't want them to, never wanted them to feel like the divorce was their fault, because it wasn't. And I also never wanted to present the opportunity, because kids are sponges.
Yeah.
If mommy's saying this,
Yeah.
if mommy won't give me this, maybe if I heard her say this and I go tell daddy that she said this, maybe daddy will then give me what I want. And we don't want to raise manipulators. We don't want to do that. We
Yeah.
want to try and give, even when we are not a unified front,
Mhm.
it's important for kids to have that, so they know that, yeah, we might have two Christmases now, but mom and dad are going to work together to make sure that we're good. So that's something, it's a process, it's an ongoing thing, but that's always been the forefront for me, is making sure that the kids get as little of a blowout from that as possible.
And Rita, that's the key, because people always bring their kids to me as a therapist when they're going through divorce, and I'll say, "Well, how is divorce going though?" Because a big piece of that is how the adults handle the divorce. Kids are resilient, right? And I love how you said their safe space now became two spaces, right? The idea that we are their safe space when kids are growing up, but that shift happens for them as well, and to be able to process that, sometimes they do need therapist. Sometimes they do need even just grandmom or a good friend or someone.
Mhm.
And at any age, my kids were a freshman in college and a senior in high school when we went through our divorce. And even to, I'm touching base with them. I tease my daughter all the time. I say, "You sure you don't want to see a therapist?" And she's like, "Mom, I got you." And I'm like, "Okay." But even the idea of talking, even when we think they're good, it's like, well, no, they may want to have someone outside of their parents that they can express and talk and get those emotions and feelings out. And so not all children need therapy, but again, even the idea of saying, if you see the signs, if they are having a hard time with it, absolutely have that as a resource. I love that. Reasha, as we're closing out, what would be kind of your last thought to maybe a woman, a man, someone that's going through this marital status change, this shift? What would be your final thought or just something key that you would want to share with them?
I would like them to know you are worthy,
Mm,
that you have purpose, and you are going to get through this. This is not the end. This is you just gotten off on an exit on the
yes.
road on your life, and this is not your last stop. It is going to be okay, and there is better coming.
Mm, man, you just said a word. Got off the exit, but we get back on the highway. There we go. I love
Absolutely. Just a little rest stop.
it. Just a little, just a little. All right, dear. So before we go, this is something I have all my guests do. Our Laffy Taffy joke of the show, Proverbs 17:22 says, "A joyful heart is good medicine."
I love
So
it.
here's your joke. Okay, ready?
Okay.
What did the skunk say when the wind changed? What did the skunk say when the wind changed?
The skunk say when the wind changed. I already know I'm going to cackle at this because I love jokes. I have no idea.
Okay. He said, "It's all coming back to me now." I know it takes a, but it was shifting, and I was like, "Oh, this is a cute one. This works. I
I
love
get
it."
it. I like that.
All right,
I'm
Misha,
going to tell
tell
my
them.
son that, see if he gets it.
I love it. So tell everybody how they can get in touch with you, how they can get the book, how can they get information on the summit, even how they can get your resources.
Oh, yes. Okay. So you can follow me on Facebook or Instagram at either Experience the Exhale or My Rainbow is Here. That's the same on both Facebook and Instagram. If you would like to get a copy of my book, you can go to myrainbowishere.com. I would love if any women watching would visit experiencetheexhale.com. That's where you will get information on the summit. You can also take our clarity quiz. And that clarity quiz is just a few questions that will help you determine where you are on the shift, and we'll provide resources to you based on that. We do also have a private Facebook group. So if you send me a message or follow me on My Rainbow is Here on Facebook, we can add you to the group and you can get some like VIP information. And again, the summit will be on September 12th at the Crown at the Carolina Theater. There will be more information to come when ticket sales are available. But it's going to be great.
It is going to be great. I love it. Awesome. Well, folks, before we go, we know we have to do our Love Our Babies Well send off. And so today we really talked about this idea of the promise and remembering that, as Reasha said, it's only an exit on this highway and that God's not done writing your story. His promise is the same as it was back then, and it continues to be the same, that good things are ahead. And so we just want to encourage you on your journey and wherever you are, that community is important. And remember that you are enough. Thanks so much for tuning in to the Dr. Stacy Show. Until next time, keep the faith, love the babies well, and pursue wellness.